Morning.
Morning.
Just been to the post box. The sun is shining. It's a beautiful day. How are we all? What's going on in the garden, Chris? I hear you cry. These are my hellebores. They're out. For those listening, they're white. Called Christmas roses. They're lovely white flowers. There's also a poo there. That's nice, isn't it? There's a poo. Who's jumped in the flower bed and done a poo? Not me, Your Honour. This is my magnolia tree. Look, and the buds are coming out. I'm a big believer in spring, in case you hadn't noticed. And then here, these are all the tulips waiting to come out. They came up ages ago because there was a warm few days, and now I've been watching them because then it got really cold. And as we all know, anyone listening from England, which is most of you, it's been raining for a month. So I've just been looking at them going, come on, baby, stay with me. Don't get, because if they get frost, I feel like then they die and then that's it. But I could be wrong about that. Anyone else who's having a tulip craze, should we call it? Please write in hello@homosapienspodcast.com, @homosapiens on Instagram. Basically, my question is, if my tulips came up ages ago, not flowered, but just came up, if they get frost, do they never come back or do they regrow? Hey, so listeners, how are ya? What's been going on? Talk to me. Well, you have all been talking to me on email and messages. We'll be diving in there in a moment. My name is Christopher Sweeney. This is the weekly email catch-up. This season, we are supporting Not a Phase. What does that look like? Well, Danny St. James from Not a Phase runs an underwear company that supplies, where you can buy, I should say, gender-affirming underwear for trans people. If you are a trans person or know a trans person, would you like to nominate someone or nominate yourself to have some gender-affirming underwear bought for you? If so, write in hello@homosapienspodcast.com, @homosapiens on Instagram. I have had a lovely week. I have basically found myself in a wormhole of health stuff. Does anyone else get that MYOTA, MYOTA notification on their phone, on their Instagram, which is about fiber? And you know, when you order something, you're like, I don't know why I'm doing this. Anyway, apparently we all need more fiber. So I've ordered that. I've also been to see a skin doctor, and she says I have rosacea. So she gave me this cream. I can't remember the name of it. And I have really, really sensitive skin, right? So I got in some wormholes online about how to deal with sensitive skin. And I think there is amazing advice on there. CeraVe is amazing and really cheap. The Ordinary has really good stuff. Just lots of good advice. Anyway, I ended up on this dermatologist's website, and she just looked really cool. And she was really nice. She was called Dr. Gao, Gao. And I went to see her because I've just sort of ignored my skin. I always have. But it looks quite angry a lot of the time. Some of you may have noticed. Anyway, she gave me this cream. She said, you have rosacea. And she gave me this cream for rosacea that I put on my skin. And seborrheic dermatitis, which I knew about and sort of managed to stay on top of. This will be on my gravestone. Like, read the instructions, do things properly, Chris, because it's going to lead to your death. Because I didn't really read the instructions. Anyway, I just put it all over my face, including my eyes. And it sort of got into my eyes. And this was nearly 24 hours ago. And I still feel like my eyes really sting. And my face felt like it was sort of, burning is not the right word, but felt odd all night. And then what was weird is like, it feels like it really kept me awake. I don't know even if that's an option. Can a skin cream keep you awake? I felt like I was awake the whole night. Anyways, that's my big news. So first thing I want to say is we've got Dr. Gareth Patterson coming on the podcast. He's a doctor. The Irish GP on Instagram. We're going to cover LGBT health topics, but everybody, you need to write in if there is something specific you'd like us to talk about, and we can. He is amazing. He's at the Irish GP on Instagram, and I love him. His story is incredible. We'll get into all of that. Right, let's go to the email inbox. Thomas has been in touch. A great chat with Dr. Rands, which was the other day. Him and James are such a cute couple. This was our heated rivalry special, people. Does it matter if actors are queer or not? I'm always looking at actors on Wikipedia and scrolling down to a personal life section to see if they are gay. Not sure why it matters to me. Maybe it's so I can fantasize that I have a shot with them if we met, joking. I appreciate sexiness regardless of gender, but Jonathan Bailey being named sexiest man, I am here for it. I am pleased that it's no longer front page news when someone comes out. And I hope the world of sports can catch up with the rest of us soon. Well, quite right. That's such a lovely point, isn't it? It really is only the sports world left where it is headlines, let's say in the UK. So, there was like a younger version. I certainly did this, where if you thought someone was gay, you'd look them up. And we used to whisper about people, like, don't you think they're gay? Because you just would be like, they would never come out. But you'd sort of, and I don't think it was a witch hunt. I think it was like a kind of wish fulfillment thing of like you being able to imagine that they could be part of your world, I suppose. On the whole, I actually think it's really positive. And thank you for that message because it reminds us all of that. Let's keep looking at this here inbox. Harriet Rose is a breath of fresh air. I think all people filter themselves at work for various reasons. However, I filter myself at work because no one wants to hear what I get up to in the gay sauna. Well, here's the thing, Craig, who's written that in. Someone said to me the other day, it's the death of bringing yourself to work. And I do wonder if that resonates with everybody, that there was a period where it's like bring yourself to work and you can be yourself. And then now it feels like it's road backwards. And I have a question of whether that is strictly true or more to the point, what are your experiences of it? I'd love to know. But yeah, I think we did go through a phase where we would tell everyone everything. I'm not sure we do anymore, it's kind of what Harriet and I were talking about, right? It's like Harriet and I talked about homophobia in the workplace. Sorry, I should be clear. And yeah, I think it's a really interesting question about what you should bring to work and what you don't. Ed's been in touch. If you remember, Ed talked about moving to Berlin. Or I thought he'd said he'd moved to Berlin. And I said, Ed, what are you doing in Berlin? He's a listener who'd written in. He was talking about sort of dressing straight and there was a Tommy Robinson march and he was scared in London. I'm summarizing there, so I don't want to get it wrong. But anyway, I said to Ed, you got to write in and tell us what you're doing in Berlin. Ed has indeed written back. Ed, hello. Hi, I agree entirely with what you said, redressing and the beauty of being just you. It was a stream of consciousness and I wanted to convey a visual of myself through the eyes of others. This is turning into therapy. Ed, first things first, this podcast is therapy, not least for me. And yeah, by the way, sorry, I just want to clarify, Ed. I was talking about myself rather than you. I wasn't coming for you, Ed. I couldn't do that. I haven't moved to Berlin yet, says Ed. Had annual leave to use up, so I decided to go someplace I'd never been. Did not go to Berghain. Berghain being the club which has a sort of door policy where they just say you're not cool enough to come in. But also there's a sex club vibe downstairs. There's possibly a sex club vibe over it. I haven't been. It was far too cold to queue. I had a history culture Berlin experience. Therefore, we'll be going back. Edward, chef's kiss. Thank you for the update. Very lovely to hear that. Now, opinions on Epstein. A couple of messages about Epstein. Last week on this email catch-up episode, I floated the idea of gay men specifically, I think, and their feeling of having to linked to people pleasing, do often find themselves being a sort of gopher, doing things for people in positions of power, and that's how they get close to power. I then questioned whether that was part of anything to do with Peter Mandelson, because he is a gay man. And I was sort of thinking out loud. I was thinking out loud. And it was a question, that I wanted to throw out to you guys to see if it was outrageous or not at all. Turns out I think the answer is it was outrageous. Aidan has been in touch. Lovely Aidan. On Epstein, I had a funny conversation when my dad felt really concerned about Mandelson making gay men look bad. First I heard of Mandelson being gay, And B, how are all us gay men suddenly represented by this prick? So, so funny. Do you know, I didn't know Peter Mandelson was gay for ages either. When we ask for equality, we should be judged equally without our own sexuality as porn, excuse, or bias. In this case, which is what Mandelson is trying to do with nobody buying it. I've often come across people who seem surprised when someone from the LGBTQ is suddenly not a model citizen. And I personally think it stems from making a hard case for equal rights, that we're not bogey people. Shout out to the trans community who are properly dealing with this at the moment. Quite right, Aidan. Thank you. We must shake off this idea that somehow we must explain and apologize why an LGBTQ individual would behave like this, when simply the case is just typical for a messed up person. The expression or oppression of his sexuality are sometimes factors, but obviously not an excuse for horrific crimes. I recommend listening to Bad People podcast with Julia Shaw. Oh, I've heard of that. Yes, I'd love to listen to that. There are many in those files that are straight cis that still have a lot to answer for, and the recurring factor is they're all rich and into the same seedy world. Money, yes, that's the corrupter. In fact, that's my words, not Aidan's. In fact, if there's some rich folk listening to this and worried that these files are making them look bad, mine and many fellow creators' bank accounts are empty from the nonsense of the last decade. Do something useful for once and help us out directly, please. Loving the return of this podcast. Aidan, thank you so much. That is a great email, and I really agree that the corrupting factors or recurring factor is wealth, and it's the obsession with being close to wealth and therefore power that corrupts people. And there are plenty more people who are not gay, who have been part of this. And everyone's been sharing that thing online, which I love, which is there are no drag queens, migrants, or et cetera, in the Epstein files. It's all a certain kind of person. Also, does anyone know how to get rid of junk mail? The Homo sapiens email address gets so much junk mail, but my home email address gets none. Why is that? Is there a plugin? Is there a thing? ChatGPT has let me down on this. Message from Jake.
Hello, Chris. It's Jake. I am just catching up on the emails episode. Mandelson's sexuality should have nothing to do with this. There are people that do bad things across every identity in life, and I understand what you're saying, but I don't think it's relevant in this case. He did terrible things. Mandelson did bad things. And we get that people do good things, people do bad things regardless. So those are my thoughts, my ramblings at 6:25 a.m.
Yeah, thank you, Jake, for that. Yeah, I mean, I think the consensus is let's not link queerness to what makes people do things, because as both of you have said in different ways, the truth of the matter is people of all areas of the spectrum do bad things, got nothing to do with their queerness. And I'm somehow trying to attach people pleasing to it, and it doesn't feel like that flies here. And I think it's also important to say at this juncture, let's focus on the victims and send our love to the families of the victims and who have been through the most incredibly awful ordeal. And none of it should have happened. Plus, Jake, can I just say in a lighter mood, well done for being out at 6:30 in the morning in this weather. I mean, honey. And not just being out, going for a coffee, going to the gym. I made coffee this morning, and I made it as here. It's gross. You know, when you just make a bad pot, and sometimes it's too strong, sometimes it's not strong enough. You can never quite get around it. Listeners, that's all we've got time for. This has been heaven as ever. Do stay and just look at myself here in the video. I need a haircut, man. Oh, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to call the barber after this. Do stay in touch. As always, it's a delight. I've been Chris Sweeney. You've got to write to us, hello@homosapienspodcast.com, @homosapiens on Instagram. You've also got to follow us on YouTube. Thank you to everyone who does, at Homo Sapiens Pod on YouTube. Look us up. And what else have I got to say to you? Send in your GP, anything you'd like the GP to discuss, guidance, things like that. Lots of people have said prep, so we'll cover that. I know that much. People from outside of all parts of the spectrum, please write in as well. A couple of people did already. Thanks for listening. Stay in touch. And look at this, the sun's come out. Chef's kiss. Ta-ra!